What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode on the Audi A5. So what we're going to look at doing in this episode is building the front of the vehicle back up enough to get it down to the body shop. So with that being said, we'll get going.
So I've just been having a little play around with the plastic welder. So basically, as you can see there, I'm just trying it out to see how it works, see how I go with it. So I've been using these particular ones here. So I found that if you spread the two little pieces slightly, it just stops them from falling out of the gun. So what I'm going to do now is just have a little play around with the rest of these ones and see how we go. So as I say, I've literally just pulled them out ever so slightly, just so it doesn't fall out of the gun there. Just be careful as well, because I'm not sure, I imagine these get quite hot as well. So just popping that down. And all you do is you just literally pull the trigger, let it start to melt into the plastic, and then just release the trigger and pop them out like that, and then just work your way along really. This one could go in a bit more. So I've now finished stitching the bumper back together. So I've done this section here that was pulled out, this bit round here, and then the big gouge that you saw in there earlier. So what I'm going to do is just get a flat disc on a grinder and just carefully dress this out here. I've just grabbed some plastic filler rod here, and what we're going to be doing is just looking to heat that up with a gasless soldering iron, getting that nice and hot, just so that that will seep into any of the remaining sort of damage on there and fill in any of the crack that we weren't able to do with the staples there. So we're just working our way through that now. Then what we'll do is we'll sand that back lightly, enough so that we can then get the filler in there afterwards. So I've now just put a light skim of the plastic filler just here, and then on the section down there as well. So that takes about an hour to go off. So we'll look at getting that sanded down once it's gone off. So we can sand that down. What I'll probably use is quite a coarse sandpaper at first. So something like a 180 or a 120, just to get the most of it off. And then we can look at gradually going up to the finer sandpaper to get that nice smooth finish. We're only making it sort of, you know, as good as we can with the tools that we've got here, and then what we'll look at doing is getting the body shop to really finish this off, as well as when they do the wing and the bonnet and the other bits and pieces that we want to get painted. So yeah, we'll let that go off and then we'll come back to it and start sanding. So this is where we've got to with the front bumper. So just to recap what we've done, we've stitched all of the damage back together in here and in here as well, and there was a little section here. We've then heated it up and put some plastic welding rods in just to fill and join the crack together as best as possible, and fused all that in place. And then what we've done here is we've just put in ourselves a light skimmer filler and just sanded that back to a rough sort of shape, and as I say, we get the body shop to finish that off. We can now get cracking with starting to rebuild the front of the car. So just lifting up the bonnet there, and then I'm just removing a rubber glove there which I've got just covering the headlight wiring. So that's all out of the way now, and then what we're looking at doing is getting this headlight surround piece all disassembled from some of the bits that we don't need, because that's come off of a previously dismantled car. So there's a couple of bits on there that we don't need because they're on the car that we've got. So we're just looking at popping that all in place now. That actually secures and holds the bottom section of the wing, as you can see there. I'm just pushing that into place and getting that to line up. There's also a line that comes off just where the radiator is, and I've just been tucking and pushing that back in place. And then what we will look at doing is also tucking that headlight washer tubing up out the way into there. So again, it's just some more moving around of the wing, getting all of that lined up so that we can start screwing that all back into place. We have managed to get a headlight which has got matching part numbers, so that's great because that just means that we know it's going to be the right one when it comes to fitment. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just checking the headlight over, making sure that there's no damage on it, checking all the securing lugs, because the last thing we want to do is go and fit that headlight and then find that it's not fully secure. So I'm just tucking that into place now. We've checked all the lugs, they're okay. You can actually get headlight tab repair kits from the manufacturer, or you can get them online if you need them, but luckily we don't in this case. So we're just cracking on, putting the back plug on there, and then just looking at lining that headlight up with the wing and the rest of the panel work. And then what we can do from there is just get all the securing screws back into the headlight and make sure that it's functioning properly. The headlight mounting bolts are just all Torx bolts on the top along here, and then you've got one 10mm bolt which has also got a cutout for a Torx bit at the top of it, I believe, as well, which is just tucked right at the back of the headlight at the bottom there, and that just secures it, or the lower part of the headlight, to the bottom of that headlight mounting bracket. I'm just putting a bit of pressure onto that wing now, just to get that to line up as best as I possibly can for now. Until we've then got the front bumper on, we can look at moving that around a bit more, but it's just getting it to line up nicely with the headlight there. I've just popped round to the driver's side now, and what I'm going to be doing is just turning the headlights on. I just want to check that that near side headlight is fully working. The last thing I want to be doing is putting the front bumper on and then finding that the headlight or the indicators or the daytime running lights aren't working. So I'm just going through and checking, make sure they all work. Now it's time for the front bumper. I've just gone over and grabbed that off the stands that I've got over there. The good thing about this is I don't have to be too precious about it because it's all going to be painted, so I'm quite fortunate there. I'm just looking at removing one of the sensors. As I mentioned earlier, this was actually on this new piece that we bought, the headlight bracket there. So I'm just grabbing myself a little pick just so that I can unclip the electrical connector from there, or a screwdriver, and then it just means that I can push that back into place. I've just popped back round the driver's side there because what I want to do is test to make sure the headlight washers work just before we go ahead and put that front bumper back on. I know we've got to take it off anyway, but it would be good to get those working beforehand. So as you can see, it looks as if the driver's side one is working, but unfortunately not the passenger one. This was broken in the accident, but we did manage to get a second-hand one when we got the headlight bracket. It actually came with it, but I don't think that this one is actually working. So I'm just taking the pipework off there just to check and see if there's anything obvious, make sure that it is getting
fluid to that headlight washer. So I'm just then checking the driver's side just to make sure that that one looks okay. And again, as you can see, I'm just testing them, and unfortunately the passenger side one isn't working. So what we're going to have to look at doing is probably getting a new one of those. We could carry on looking at getting that front bumper back on, regardless of the headlight washer there not working. So it's just a case of pushing in the top part of the front bumper there first. It's just got some little tags that hold it in place, and they're on like a plastic ratchet, so they click quite nicely into the front sort of slam panel there. And then just looking at starting to line up the bumper, making sure that I've tucked all the bits and pieces in place so that we can start getting some of the securing screws in there. I'm now just lining up the bumper there with the wing, just trying to get the gaps as good as I can for the moment. So it's just a case of manipulating the bumper and the wing there just to get those to fit nicely. And then what I'm going to do in a second is head up towards the top of the bumper and just start pushing that all into place there. So I'm just working that in line with the headlight there. And then we've got some self-tapping screws, which you probably saw in the first video we had to drill out. So we're now just putting those back in place. We ended up having to get those from Audi because I couldn't seem to find them from anywhere else. They seem to be quite a specific screw, and they were about £7 each. So rather expensive for 2 screws, but we needed them, and we want to make sure that it's secure and it's right. So we're just making sure that lines up, and then again the same for the driver's side, just pushing that in place, and then we're going to go round to the driver's side and just tuck that part in there. I'm then just making sure that the under tray underneath is all lined up and that's not tucked the wrong side of the bumper. So it's just a case of making sure that everything is lining up, and then we can look at getting some of the securing screws in place. For the minute, I'm just looking at putting one of the bumper screws in each side, because if they need to take the bumper back off, it just means that there's less screws and bolts and bits and pieces for them to take off. It just makes the whole process of taking it off for prepping and painting much easier. Then we're going to head round to the driver's side and just do the same. So same again, it's just one 10mm bolt just holding on the inside there, just in the wheel arch. Now I'm putting some more of the screws in the top of the bumper there, just to hold it all in place. Now I'm putting a couple of the securing screws that go between the front bumper and the under tray, just to make sure that that doesn't flap about or cause any damage. And then it's onto that plastic sort of fillet piece that just sits between the front bumper and the sort of front rad pack, or the plastic piece that holds the rad pack in. So the front of that just slides into the front bumper there, just pushes in, and then you've got 4 Torx bits, I think they're T25, that just hold that all in place. So we just line that up and then get all the screws in there, and then that should be nice and secure. So what I have done is I've moved all of this wing around a little bit more, just to try and make it fit just a little bit better. There's still plenty of work to do there, so it may well be that the body shop say it's easier to get a new wing, but I'll let them make that decision and we'll go from there. So now I'm just going to look at popping this wheel arch liner back in. So we'll just start getting that back in there. As I say, I won't put all the screws on this side because I'll take the bumper back off anyway, but I'll get all this slot back on. Just get our clips back out. So I'm just grabbing the camera and going to take you around the front there, just so you can have a quick look and see where we've got to. So the gaps aren't quite perfect there, but they're looking a lot better than when we first started. So what we can do is leave the remainder of that for the body shop to finish off. I'm just going to pop the bonnet shut now and just check to make sure that that's not going to hit or damage the headlight. So this is where we're at, guys. We've now got the bumper back on, as you've seen. We've ordered a fog light grille cover for that down in the near side there as well. We've got the wheels back on it. So the next thing to do is give this a first test drive, and we'll do that when we're on our way over to the body shop. We are now out and about on our first road test. So what I am going to do at some point is just grab some fuel. I just want to make sure that we've got enough fuel to A, get to the body shop. I'd rather not break down on our first road test, and also I just want to ensure that when the body shop's got the car in, they've got plenty of fuel if they need to move it around. It's nothing more frustrating than getting in a car when there's not enough fuel in it. So yeah, back to the car. It seems to be driving really well. There's no funny sort of knocks and bangs. I'm just going over some quite rough road here. So yeah, everything seems to be okay. Seems to be changing gear all right. I have just been playing around with some of the dials, bits and pieces, buttons and stuff like that in the car to just make sure that all that stuff's working. As it gets up to temperature, we'll make sure that all the heating's coming through nice and warm. So yeah, but everything seems to be okay on it. It does sound quite nice. I'm not sure if the camera really does it justice, but it does sound like quite a nice car, being a V6 turbo. Yeah, it does sound pretty good. So what we're aiming to do now is we're just gonna take it for a few miles, you know, get the thing up to temperature and just make sure that everything's working as it should, and just then drop it off to the body shop for them to work their magic for us. So we're now just around the corner from the body shop, and I just thought I'd pull over, give you a quick update before we drop the car off. Everything seems to be working fine, as we mentioned just a moment ago. It's now up to full operating temperature, and we haven't had any lights come on the dash or anything strange untoward. So that's really great news. So I'm going to drop this car off with them, let them work their magic. Hopefully they can save that bonnet for us, but if not, I'll update you about that in the future episodes. So I just want to say thank you ever so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, and in the next one what we can look at doing is getting the vehicle back from the body shop, getting all that bit on the front finalised, hopefully get the car serviced and take care of anything else that we notice along the way, and then hopefully we should be all finished. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.